Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 21, Dressrosa, in the Palace. Report, young lord, our people have lost Esters. Sitting on the throne of the palace, Doflamingo listened to a subordinate come to report. What did you say? Doflamingo suddenly straightened up, and then one after another unfavorable news kept coming. Young lord, the person who followed Sasuke Uchiha lost contact. Young lord, Analu is lost. Young lord, Gojo has disappeared from the arena. Diamante. Young lord, they won't find out that we are going to do something to them, right? Quote. Touch. Pika clasped his fists and said eagerly. If you find it, you will find it. It's a big deal that we will kill them ourselves, take the heads of the spell pirate group, and ask the navy for a reward. Quote. Oh, I heard someone asked for my head. After Gojo left the arena, he directly launched teleportation and came to the Dressrosa Palace alone. What people? Faced with the sudden appearance of Gojo, Doflamingo and his subordinates instantly became alert. Without any signs, those who can escape everyone's perception and appear here directly are definitely worth their strict attention. Boom. It turned out to be the 5 realizations of the spell pirates. I wonder what happened to you coming to my palace. When it became clear that it was Gojo who had arrived, Doflamingo rose from his throne, and Doflamingo's cadres quietly charged up and prepared to attack. Did you just say that you want to take the heads of our spell pirate group and take a bounty? Even if one person faced so many people in Doflamingo, Gojo was breezy and did not have a trace of fear. Doflamingo looked directly at Gojo with a dangerous gaze and said. So what? Gojo said lightly. It will be very costly to attack us. Do you want to make us pay? As Doflamingo's words fell, the 3 top cadres of Triple, Diamante and Pika slowly walked from both sides to surround Gojo. Meanwhile, the other cadres and subordinates of the Doflamingo family, divided into 4 armies, Black Spades, Plum Blossoms, Red Peaches, and Square Pieces, quickly surrounded the royal palace. Half-Fish Manderlinger, Blaster Fruit Ability, Galadius, Violet, Ton Crush Fruit Ability, Mahabe, Rao and many more. Almost all of the cadres of the Doflamingo family gathered here, each of them is a famous powerhouse on the sea. If it were not for the subordinates of the Chiwu Sea, the bounty would not be increased, and there would definitely be many pirates with a bounty of 300 million or 500 million. At this moment, Gojo was surrounded by Doflamingo's people in the center. Facing the densely packed cadres and troops, Gojo made no unnecessary moves and said. Have you all the people arrived? Are you really calm in the face of such a situation? It's okay, because you were weak. Gojo smiled fearlessly. Boom, you were really arrogant. Originally, I wanted you to fight with the navy, but now it seems that I have to do it myself. Quote. Bullet line. Doflamingo raised his index finger and tucked away the other fingers, and a thin line shot directly from the fingertip at high speed, directly towards Gojo. The bullet line is destructive enough to penetrate steel with one blow and easily penetrate buildings. Oh, before Thin Line could attack Gojo, he was stopped by Esters, who had rushed there, with his sword, and said. How can I easily let you attack the king's position? Zig. Multiply. With the sound of lightning, a blue thunderbolt flashed and turned into a human form. Analu asked arrogantly, where is the opponent of this god? Quote. Wow. A hawk roar cut through the sky, Sasuke fell from the sky, and a few flashes came to Gojo's side. Aren't you going to fight yet? Oh, it's waiting for you, Sasuke. Have everyone arrived? It's all in one place. Quote. 5-color line. Doflamingo created a thin almost transparent silk thread from each of his 5 fingers, and with a wave of his palm, the silk thread that was as sharp as a piano thread swept towards Estes and Gojo. Activating the teleportation, Gojo came to Esters. With a wave of his hand, he easily blocked the 5 silk threads that were enough to cut the building. His eyes were calm, and he said. He handed it over to me, you can pick your opponent yourself. Gojo stared at Doflamingo, and when the words fell, his whole person instantly appeared in front of Doflamingo and attacked him. The battle broke out in an instant. At the moment when Gojo made a move, Esters, Sasuke, and Analu also struck together. Sasuke launched the How Fireball technique, which instantly formed a huge fireball, which also enveloped hundreds of people from the Doflamingo family in flames, and instantly turned into fire people. Immediately after Analu struck, the violent thunder and lightning kept flashing in the crowd, and dozens of people were electrocuted into coke, fell to the ground, and smoked. Estes swung the western sword in his hand in the air, and in an instant the cold air filled the air, freezing hundreds of ordinary soldiers of the Doflamingo family. Your opponent is me. Seeing that his men were killed so much in an instant, Diamandi held the long sword, roared and rushed forward, and when he arrived in front of Esther's, he swung his sword violently, colliding with the western sword in Esther's hand, and sparks splashed in an instant. Doflamingo's other cadres also shot and surrounded Sasuke and Analu. He wanted to quickly defeat Sasuke and Analu and the others with absolute numerical superiority. Boom, rumble, rumble. The loud sound of the battle at the Dressrosa Palace came out. It attracted the attention of many. Not far from the palace, many civilians heard the sound from the palace, and they climbed to the height of the building, all looking towards the palace, watching the fierce battle that broke out in the palace, their faces showing shock. For them, they had never seen too many flamenco cadres and soldiers, and so many people gathered to fight in the palace, and there were only 4 people fighting with them. His Majesty Doflamingo, and Lord Diamandi, Lord Pika, Lord Treeberg. Unbelievable, His Majesty Doflamingo and the cadres actually personally took action. Quote, Your Majesty, who are their opponents? White hair, black eye patch, it seems to be white hair Gojo. And that is the Ice Queen Esther's, blood pupil Uchiha Sasuke, and Thor Analu. They are the spell pirates. After the civilians of Dressrosa recognized Gojo's group, they were all in their hearts, and the spell pirate group that defeated the general and made a big disturbance in the Chambord Islands is now attacking the palace. The civilians who were deceived by Doflamingo watched Doflamingo's subordinates being killed continuously, and they were very worried in their hearts, and began to pray for Doflamingo and them, praying that Doflamingo could defeat the invaders. But unlike these civilians, those who were turned into toys looked at the battle in the palace, shocked, and a glimmer of hope surged in their hearts. These toy people are influenced by the fruit ability of sugar and forced to turn into toys, have to work non-stop for Doflamingo every day, and will be forgotten by everyone, including their own relatives. What they long for most is someone who can knock Doflamingo down, restore his human form, and make the truth public. However, they are also equally afraid that the spell pirates will become the next Doflamingo. Chapter 22. Boom. Gojo's fist once again landed on Doflamingo. Step. Trample. Doflamingo was slammed backwards and struggled to regain his stabilization. You guy really lives up to his name. It seems that repelling the yellow ape is not accidental. Since you know, how about surrendering earlier? Do you think it's possible? Foot shaving. Doflamingo's toes were accompanied by sharp silk threads, and he kicked towards Gojo. Boom. Once again, Doflamingo's attack was blocked by Gojo's hand and stopped in a millimeter. What kind of ability are you? So difficult. What ability do you think it is? Gojo didn't intend to tell Doflamingo his information. Boom. Rumble. Rumble. At the same time, others were fighting fiercely and emitting a roar. 200 million volts Thor. Analu let out a low roar, and powerful electricity was continuously released from his body and quickly condensed. Eventually, a giant made up of thunder took shape. The giant hand composed of thunder shot out with a palm, and it fell from the sky overwhelmingly. The moment he landed, dozens of Doflamingo soldiers were enveloped. But this is not the end. The huge palm burst out with even more brilliant light, extremely destructive thunder and lightning, instantly swallowed around, electrified the ordinary soldiers around to lose their combat effectiveness, fell down, and could not get up again. Thunder fruit. Doflamingo looked into the distance, and his subordinates suffered heavy losses and frowned. However, now is not the time to deal with other war situations, and the man in front of him must go all out. Thoughts fluttered, and Doflamingo attacked again. Super Strike Whip. The moment the words fell, Doflamingo's 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and countless silk threads erupted from the palm of his hand, constantly converging, turning into a thick pillar of thread, and swept towards the 5 realizations. Gojo was not afraid. His right hand clenched into a fist, and the powerful spell instantly converged into his fist, and a punch slammed into the line pillar. Boom. The thick pillar collided with the fist wrapped in spell power, and it was instantly scattered. Touch. The powerful impact was transmitted from the line post to Doflamingo, who immediately unleashed his armed color domineering, but still failed to resist this impact and was shocked back. Gojo, who shot Doflamingo, did not take advantage of the victory to pursue, but said, "Oh yes, what a danger." He said danger, but Gojo couldn't see the tension on his flat face. And at the same time that Gojo fights fiercely with Doflamingo. Not to be outdone, Esther's held the western sword and slashed sharply. Phew. The powerful slash rushed away in the air, and in the face of the devastating slash, everything was like paper, easily cut. Everywhere the slash passed, the ordinary soldiers of the Doflamingo family were all cut in two. And the power of the slash was undiminished, and it swept straight towards Diamante, the highest cadre of Doflamingo. Diamante's face changed, and he hurriedly clenched the sword in his hand, and with a sword, he slashed out. Half Moon Funeral. Phew. Green sword chi erupted from the sword, tearing the earth apart, colliding with Esther's slash. Boom. The moment the two slashes made contact in the air, an explosion was generated, and a huge blast wave was transmitted from the center of the collision and spread around, and ordinary soldiers were all bombarded everywhere they passed, and ordinary cadres resisted with difficulty. Bastard Spell Pirate Group. Looking at the battle situation in the major battlefields, Pika let out an angry roar. Hey, at war with me, and dare to look around, who gave you courage? In an instant, Sasuke came directly to Pika and kicked out. Boom. Even with a tall body, Pika could not avoid being kicked by Sasuke. Bastard, I want you to die. Quote. Pika, who stood up again, activated the ability of Stone Fruit. The whole earth began to shake, and a giant made entirely of stone rose up from the ground, hundreds of meters high. Die. Sasuke Uchiha. Pika controlled the stone giant's fist and slammed it into Sasuke's position. But Sasuke has an eternal kaleidoscope chakra eye, and is proficient in seeing and hearing domineering. Such a huge fist is slow in his eyes, and Sasuke did not put it in his eyes at all. Boom. The giant fist blasted the earth out of a giant pit, but there was no trace of Sasuke in the pit. Long before the fist fell, Sasuke was out of range of the fist in an instant. Is this your devil fruit ability? All right, I'll let you see the power of the great Uchiha clan. Susanoo. As the words fell, Uchiha Sasuke's eternal kaleidoscope Sharingan pupil power exploded. Immediately after that, I saw the purple giant, rising from the ground. Completely enveloped Sasuke's entire person. This is only Susanoo's semi-complete body, but this alone is already as tall as the stone giant, or even slightly beyond. Sasuke felt that it was not necessary to use full-body Susa to deal with this kind of character, and if it were not for the plan, he could kill Pika in seconds without Susanoo. Ooh, it's up and down. Did you even use Susanoo to destroy this place? Quote. Susanoo's power is too great, it can easily destroy this place. After all, this place is going to become the territory of the spell pirates, and it is always bad to destroy it. Gojo was helpless about Sasuke's whim, but did not intend to stop it. What kind of devil fruit ability is this? Doflamingo looked on in surprise, thinking it was the ability of the devil fruit that he did not know. What? The cadres and soldiers present and the civilians watching the battle from a distance were also very shocked. They had never seen a purple giant like this. From this giant, everyone felt unprecedented pressure. Gojo smiled and said, "This is not the ability of the devil fruit, but the ability of the Uchiha clan to inherit the blood limit realm." Blood succession limit. What is that thing? Quote. Doflamingo has never heard of any blood succession limits. However, this is also helpless. After all, there is no talk about the blood succession limit in the pirates. Only the devil fruit here can give people special abilities. That's power from the bloodline, which can't be obtained without the Uchiha bloodline. Unless Gojo didn't continue. Unless Doflamingo immediately grasped the key point of Gojo's speech. Bang bang. Is there another way to gain this power? Yes, but there is no way you can do it, because your ambition will end today. Quote. Chapter 23. Is this your devil fruit ability? Pika, like most people, thought it was Sasuke's devil fruit ability. Look how I break it. As soon as the words fell, Pika once again swung the fist of the huge stone man and slammed it towards Sasuke's Susanoo. A guy who doesn't know the height of the sky. Sasuke taunted, then controlled Susanoo's fist and swung it sharply at Pika's fist. Boom. Susanoo's fist collided with the stone giant's fist, making a loud noise that shook the earth. The entire ground was also centered on the two giants, cracking in all directions in an instant. Countless Doflamingo family cadres and ordinary soldiers were blown away by the powerful shockwave, or fell into the cracked ground, and everyone showed a shocked look on their faces. Battles of this level are no longer something that these lower-level cadres and ordinary soldiers can participate in. A little aftermath of the battle is enough to inflict them on heavy damage. Oh my god, how is this possible? Shouldn't I be dreaming? Lord Pika, you can't defeat this purple giant. I can even compete with Lord Pika. Not far away, many civilians were watching the situation here, not only because this battle would probably determine their fate, but also because in their hearts Doflamingo was a great king, and they did not want the Doflamingo family to be defeated. The showdown in the royal palace touched the hearts of the commoners. What? Pika saw that his fist was actually blocked, his eyes showed anger, and he clenched his other empty hand into a fist and continued to blast over. Sasuke's Susanoo held it with one palm. Is that all you need? Too weak. After that, Sasuke drove Susanoo, and a force pushed the stone giant back. But that wasn't the end of it. Sasuke burst out with a powerful chakra and conjured up a sword, rushing straight up to cut off one of the stone giant's legs. Ben did not stand firmly. Coupled with the loss of a leg, the stone giant could no longer maintain his figure. It fell backwards, and many buildings that were close were directly crushed. Pika-sama. Pika. Seeing Pika knocked out, many ordinary soldiers, civilians, and Doflamingo family cadres exclaimed. Ha 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 ha. See, this is the power of Uchiha. Blocking his bleeding eyes, Sasuke let out a maniacal laugh. At the same time, the battle between Estes and Analu also achieved great results. Under the attacks of Estes, Sasuke and Analu, Doflamingo's men were killed and wounded. The forces on the side of the Doflamingo family are completely suppressed. Seeing the heavy casualties of his subordinates, Doflamingo couldn't help but wrinkle his brows together, and said in a cold voice. Each of your subordinates is not a simple character. You're hiding deeply. Gray Hair 5 Realization. It's not that we hide deeply, but no one has ever been able to force us to give our all. You really dare to say it? He still didn't admit it, but Doflamingo had long understood in his heart that Gojo was indeed qualified to be so arrogant. Although he has received some information about the Spell Pirate group, only by personally fighting it can he know its true horror. The combat power displayed by the Spell Pirates now far exceeded his expectations. Pika's stone giant is suppressed by Uchiha Sasuke's purple giant, and the others simply cannot intervene in their battle. Diamandi was also restrained by Estes. No, it should be a joke. Estes took the lives of countless ordinary soldiers with a single blow in addition to fighting. Only Trebol fought better there and was able to fight with Analu, but it didn't last long. If you want to reverse this situation, you can only solve it quickly. Doflamingo adjusted his breath, a cold light shot out from his eyes under his sunglasses, his figure flashed, and he rushed towards Gojo and kicked it. Foot shaving. In the face of Doflamingo's kick, Gojo did not dodge, and just when the kick was about to kick himself, he came to Doflamingo's side in an instant, and then threw a backhand punch, wrapped in a violent spell. Looking at the 5 realizations that suddenly appeared on his side, Doflamingo's sense of crisis rushed straight to the heavenly spirit cover, and he did not hesitate to immediately use his armed color domineering to resist. Boom. But even if he unleashed his armed color domineering, under this blow, Doflamingo was still blasted out. Such a powerful force. Have you guys been putting water just now? Doflamingo, who was back on his feet, roared at Gojo. Gojo said unscrupulously, just now. Ha ha ha. And how are you sure that I don't put water now? After listening to Gojo's words, Doflamingo's face became even more gloomy, and in the confrontation just now, he had already judged that Gojo's strength was indeed worthy of the name, both speed and strength were above him. What's even more difficult is that his own attacks can't do any harm to Gojo at all. The defensive barrier of the 5 enlightenments, even their own extremely sharp silk threads cannot penetrate. My subordinates are all fighting, and as a captain, I have to come up with some results. When the words fell, the figure of Gojo suddenly flickered, and then appeared directly above Doflamingo, and kicked down. The spell condensed on the foot and compressed to the extreme. This blow was enough to kick the ground in half. Not good. Seeing that the domineering color sensed the power of Gojo's kick, Doflamingo couldn't help but change his face suddenly, and waved his hand without hesitation. Cobweb wall. Countless silk threads instantly weaved above Doflamingo into a large net. However, under the foot of Gojo, the entire cobweb wall still changed shape the moment it touched, and in the face of powerful forces, it broke and collapsed in an instant, hardly stopping Gojo for a moment. Phew. Doflamingo tried his best to avoid sideways at the moment when the cobweb wall was broken, and the sound of Gojo's kick burst in Doflamingo's ears. Boom. That kick landed on the ground, instantly splitting the ground from the attack point to both sides, forming a crack that was hundreds of meters long, and the ground shook violently. Doflamingo took advantage of the shock wave formed by the 5-strip Gojo kick to distance himself from Gojo, and at the moment of landing, he drank lowly. Super Strike Whip. Doflamingo crossed his hands and swung sharply, and 2 extremely thick Super Strike Whips struck Gojo, but Goku's right hand became a knife, wrapped in a spell and swept left and right at will. Whoosh. Laugh at. Quote. 2 super whips that were enough to easily break through a piece of building were cut into 4 pieces under the casual hand knife of Gojo and fell to the ground. Looking at Doflamingo, Gojo raised his right index finger slightly. Next moment, the black ball flashing red formed at the fingertips of Gojo, and the energy continued to converge towards the black ball, exuding a palpitating power. Technique reversal he. As soon as the indifferent voice fell, a shockwave suddenly erupted from the fingertips of Gojo and shot directly towards Doflamingo. Multiple spider nests. Doflamingo spread his hands and cast multiple spider nests, forming multiple spider webs in front of him, and attached armed color domineering. But the spider web collapsed directly the moment it made contact with he, and his attack fell directly on Doflamingo. Doflamingo's whole person was bombarded and smashed into the building of the palace, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Chapter 24. Young Lord, Your Majesty. Seeing Doflamingo's powerful blow from Gojo being blown away, Doflamingo's cadres, soldiers, and civilians all exclaimed. Phew. There was a noise where Doflamingo was buried. Ahem. Cough. Damn. Doflamingo, whose upper body was covered in armed color domineering, stood up. Gojo was not surprised that Doflamingo was still alive. Because he had already controlled the power of he, just now. If Doflamingo couldn't even stop this, then he wasn't Doflamingo. Boom. Your trick is really bad. I also want to show some skills to pay tribute to you. Bastard. Then let me see your full strength. With white hair fluttering in the wind, Gojo held his hands to his chest and suspended in the air looking down at Doflamingo. You'll see. As soon as the words fell, a strange force suddenly emanated from Doflamingo's body and shrouded the ruins of the building on which he stood. I saw that the ruins began at the feet of Doflamingo, turned into white silk threads little by little, and continued to spread around. Line Fruit Awakening. Is the Fruit Awakening finally used? Gojo looked at the building and ground that turned into countless thin white lines, and did not move, allowing Doflamingo to perform the Fruit Awakening. I have to say that on the sea, Doflamingo is indeed one of the strongest. Although he is inferior in strength in all aspects compared to the Admiral, once he uses the Fruit Awakening, he can have the qualification of a general to fight. Although in real battle, Doflamingo may not be the opponent of the general, but his strength is beyond doubt. It would be nice to be able to take him under his command, but unfortunately he could not be willing to live under the people. At this time, Doflamingo on the ruins of the building, his face was not good looking. The devil fruit awakens, and there are only a few people who can do it on the sea. Once the fruit awakens, the abilities of all parties will surge to a terrifying point. In particular, the strength of the fruit's ability can even reach the point of affecting the surrounding environment. Few people knew that Doflamingo would awaken in fruit, only high-ranking cadres knew. The Fruit Awakening was his true card, and he did not want to expose it easily. Being able to force him to use the Fruit Awakening shows that the 5 enlightenments are so powerful. Barren Wave White Line. Doflamingo killed the dew, controlling the thin white line to form a wave of angry attacks like ocean waves, surging up from below the 5 realizations. A twist-like white line wave was formed in an instant, and the 5 enlightenments were about to be crushed in the line. However, seeing the extremely dangerous white thread coming towards him, the 5 Gohan lightly stopped in place, allowing the white thread to wrap itself around. I actually forced Dof to use the Fruit Awakening. Diamandi, who was at war with Esters, and Tribo, who was at war with Analu, watched this scene with twinkle in their eyes. None of them expected that the strength of the Spell Pirate group would be so strong. Every crew member can fight with these senior cadres with ease. Their captain Gojo was even able to force the young lord to use the devil fruit awakening. Trebol said to Analu. The white-haired Gojo is indeed not a vain guy, but since the young master used the fruit awakening, it is enough to turn the situation around, and the victory in this battle belongs to the Doflamingo family. Ha ha ha, who the victory belongs to has nothing to do with me. This god wants to see how strong you Qinghai people really are. That being said, Analu doesn't think Gojo will lose. Technique reversal The 5 realizations wrapped in white lines like great waves drank lowly. Whoosh! A powerful shock wave pierced the white thread wrapped in 5 enlightenments and struck Doflamingo. The huge wave-like white line is divided in half from the center. Doflamingo quickly jumped to the side. Boom! He attacked where Doflamingo had stood, directly knocking out a huge crater on the ground. But Doflamingo did not stop, and the thin white line that collapsed in the air instantly recondensed, and once again came towards the 5 realizations. The fruit awakening is indeed extraordinary. Looking at the huge wave of the thin white line, Gojo praised. The next moment, Gojo's body leaned forward and the whole person swooped down, swinging his spell-wrapped fist into the white line wave. Boom! Rumble! Rumble! Quote. The white line waves were constantly scattered by the 5 realizations, and they kept regathering, and there was a dull roar in the air. All of them avoided the range of the battle between the 2 of them. Not long after, the roar stopped and the white line wave exploded abruptly. Poof! Doflamingo's pink figure flew upside down from among the white lines, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Swoosh! Is that the extent of fruit awakening? Doflamingo, Gojo. Goku also rushed out from the white line wave, followed closely behind, and continued to attack Doflamingo, directly throwing a punch. Shield white line. Doflamingo, who fell to the ground, immediately cast a shield white line, and several thick pillars of thread rushed up from the ground to block him in front of him, trying to resist the punches of Gojo. But it didn't work, and after the line pillar was broken by Gojo, Doflamingo was knocked off and his back smashed into a building that was not affected by the fruit's ability. The line fruit ability continues to activate, turning nearby buildings into white lines and continuing to attack Gojo. Gojo easily defused Doflamingo's attack. Who are you, and why are you so powerful? You've never heard of it before. Doflamingo was unbelievably surprised by the power of Gojo. Gojo didn't answer, stretched his body and said, "Oh, after fighting for so long, the time should be about the same." About the time? What do you mean? Doflamingo suddenly had a bad premonition. And just when Doflamingo was uneasy, a strange force suddenly spread, and in an instant it affected the entire Dressrosa. The 6 people of the underground factory Luki stood there with weapons in hand, and dozens of people lay horizontally at their feet. They were the men sent by Doflamingo to protect the Cadre Sugar, who should have protected the senior Cadre Torebel, but Torebel is now at war with Analu. Only some ordinary soldiers protect the Sugar, which can be easily solved by the Luki 6. After Sugar fell into a coma, her fruit ability was lifted. All those who were turned into toys and forgotten by Sugar with fruit abilities were restored one by one. What's going on? Doflamingo saw the change in Dressrosa, and his face changed instantly. All those who were turned into toys were restored, and all memories of them were remembered. Oh, it seems that my subordinates are very punctual. Doflamingo looked at Gojo sharply, his pupils under the sunglasses contracted violently, his brows were bruised, and his face became extremely ugly. Listen to Gojo's words, this situation is Gojo's ghost. Chapter 25. Dressrosa, Doflamingo on the palace square. Looked extremely gloomy, and his bloodthirsty eyes fixed on Gojo, as if he was about to devour Gojo. If there is a problem with Sugar's fruit ability, the shady scene of his violent rule over Dressrosa will be exposed. At that time, the entire sea will know about this, and the world government will definitely deprive itself of the title of 7 martial seas. Dressrosa can no longer be ruled by him, so he must not let what happened here be exposed. Doflamingo's mind turned sharply, thinking about the countermeasures in this situation, and finally he made a decision. Even if the entire Dressrosa is completely destroyed, everyone will be wiped out, and the events here must not be exposed to the sea. Birdcage. Taking advantage of Gojo's failure to attack, Doflamingo opened his hand sharply and swung it upwards. The white thread instantly converged towards the sky, and then divided into countless silk threads, shrouded like a birdcage. The difference was that it was not a bird, but the entire Dressrosa. Doflamingo is listed as His Majesty the Seven Warriors, a pirate who has made a contract with the government. If the bad events here are exposed, then the world government will definitely abolish the title of Doflamingo Seven Marshalseas in order to protect its own face. But if you kill all the people who know the truth here, and then attribute all the sins to the spell pirates, then your title of Seven Wuai can be preserved. Although he has to give up Dressrosa, who has been in business for many years, as long as the title of Seven Wuai is still there, he can still make a comeback. Doflamingo deserves to be a generation of heroes, and he made a trade-off. Gojo looked at the sky, at the birdcage that enveloped the entire Dressrosa, and said, "Birdcage, is this your means?" Quote, "The birdcage is not only capable of killing all life shrouded in it, but also shielding the entire Dressrosa airwave, so that the people inside cannot pass the message out. Will I let your plot succeed?" "What? Barren wave white line." Doflamingo, who felt bad, immediately cast the barren white line. Under the influence of his fruit ability, the white thin lines condensed together like waves, and instantly swept towards the five realizations. An attack of this magnitude could not damage Gojo, but he had more important things to do. Gojo immediately teleported, came to the sky above the birdcage, and directly punched out. Boom! The sturdy and sharp birdcage collapsed in an instant under the attack of Gojo. Bastard! Doflamingo watched his plans be ruined, and his hatred for Gojo reached the extreme. "Let's get started." Lucky. As if in response to Gojo's call, the Lucky 6 immediately turned on the image phone worm that had been set up. The battle at the Palace of Dressrosa is projected in many places in Dressrosa. Almost all Dressrosa civilians can see the duel between the Spell Pirates and the Doflamingo family, as well as Gojo's confrontation with Doflamingo. Coming to Doflamingo, Gojo said, "Doflamingo seized the kingdom of Dressrosa by unjust means, killed countless rebels, turned disobedient people into toy people to work for them day and night, so that the wives of the people of Dressrosa were scattered, and our spell pirate group will take the place of Skywalk today, eradicate Doflamingo, and liberate Dressrosa." Spell pirates, spell pirates, spell pirates. Quote, "After the fruit of sugar was lifted, the commoners of Dressrosa learned the truth, and the image of the great king of Doflamingo was shattered. It turns out that the spell pirates did not come to invade Dressrosa, but to rescue Dressrosa, and it was they who misunderstood the spell pirates." After Gojo's declaration of justice was spread by the phoneworm, civilians embraced the spell pirates, hoping that the spell pirates would defeat Doflamingo. Of course, it was the Lucky 6 who were mixed in to guide the civilians to shout, "So that's what you're for, Gojo." After listening to Gojo's declaration and seeing the image of Dressrosa's appearance in a domineering manner, Doflamingo finally understood the purpose of Gojo's enlightenment. The spell pirates are here to expose what he has done, otherwise it would not be possible to be so prepared. So this battle was not caused by Gojo discovering that they were going to deal with the spell pirates, but because the spell pirates targeted them from the beginning. Faced with Doflamingo's questioning, Gojo said with a righteous face, "Doflamingo, you have done a lot of evil and deceived the civilians of Dressrosa. Now that your crime has been made public, just grab it. I want you to die." Doflamingo could no longer contain his anger, and with a sharp wave of his hands, the building turned into countless white thin lines, sweeping towards the five realizations. Bang! The five realms were suspended in midair, and with a backhand shot, the white silk thread was easily dispersed. "At this point, you still don't repent, then let me personally punish you." As soon as the words fell, Gojo swooped down directly towards Doflamingo, his fist wrapped in spell power, and a punch fell from midair. Swoosh! The sound of breaking the void came, and Gojo's speed was so fast that he could hardly see his figure. Due to the speed was too fast, Doflamingo's punch in the face of Goku simply did not have time to defend with the shield white line. He could only cross his arms above his head and cast an armed domineering force in an attempt to fend off Gojo's attack. Boom! The moment the attack arrived, the earth under Doflamingo's feet collapsed directly to form a giant pit. Poof! A streak of blood spurted out of his mouth, his chest was a little sunken, and he fell in the center of the giant pit. Dover! Trable sensed Doflamingo's misery and tried to come to his aid, but Analu stopped him directly. Although Analu is not as powerful as Estes and Sasuke, it is enough to deal with Treater. While the other cadres were suppressed by Estes and Sasuke, they could not come. Gojo stood beside Doflamingo, looked down at him and said, "You lost. Ahem. Cough. Cough." Doflamingo, who fell to the ground, coughed violently, blood splattering from his mouth. "It's too early to declare my defeat so early." When the words fell, the Fruit Awakening was launched, and the ground behind the 5 enlightenments instantly turned into white lines, sweeping towards the 5 enlightenments. Snap. Doflamingo slapped his hands on the ground, flipped backwards, turned and fled into the distance, and used his speed to the extreme. Boom. Breaking through the white thread that wrapped around him, Gojo followed without changing his face and chased after Doflamingo. Although Gojo can easily catch up with Doflamingo with teleportation and defeat him. But defeating Doflamingo so easily would have left the civilians of Dressrosa lacking in realism. The harder the battle, the more they will remember the kindness that saved them, which will be very helpful for ruling Dressrosa in the future. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.